What is going on, everybody? So, guys, today we are talking about one of my favorite topics because this is something that we keep talking about, and people keep just don't really understand it. People keep not really understanding. That's what I was trying to say, and that is conditioning. And more specifically, that is one of the biggest mistakes that people make within their conditioning. So we're going to get into it very quickly. But if you're on the Instagram account, make sure you stick around because we are going to be doing a little bit of Q&A at the end. And you're probably going to have some questions because this one is something that the more time I spend talking about, the more people I have coming out asking questions about it. So let's get into it right away. No more need to wait. And we're going to go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Elite Development Podcast, the #1 show for athletes looking to gain an edge on their opponents and build their dream careers in sport. I am your host, Kenny Dusseault, and today we are talking about conditioning. And more specifically, we are talking about one of the biggest mistakes that people make within their conditioning. And that mistake is thinking that running every single day is the best way to condition yourself for fights. Now, I talk about this a lot on Reels, and I posted one the other day that's kind of popped off a little bit again. And I want to talk about it because I want to reinforce what I actually mean when I talk about this. So, number one, when I talk about running not being the right conditioning for fights, I'm not saying never go running again. What I'm saying is in terms of building conditioning for an MMA fight, a boxing match, a kickboxing fight, whatever else it might be, running all the time and just going for, 5Ks or 10Ks or whatever it is not the way to do it. It's not the optimal way to do it. Will it improve your cardio? Yes. But the goal is not just to improve your cardio. The goal is to get the most improvement in your cardio that will translate to the fight in the least amount of time. And the reason the goal is to get the most improvement in the least amount of time is not that we don't want to work hard, but it's because if everyone's just trying to grind through everything all the time and just work as hard as possible without any thought of the actual return, how do you separate yourself from that? You work more efficiently. This doesn't mean don't work hard. This means be more efficient with the work you're doing. So that's number one. I'm not saying you can never go run again. I'm not saying that running is going to be the terrible thing that's going to cause all these problems. I'm saying it's not the best way to condition yourself for fights. There's a lot more to it. And when it comes to being a lot more to it, I'm not going to go super, super in depth because go to my Instagram account. We got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of videos all about this. But number one, you need a strength base. You need to be lifting weights 2 to 3 times a week to build your strength up so that your body is more efficient in your movements. You're not wasting as much energy in your movements. And on top of not wasting as much energy in your movements, you have more potential for power output so you can throw harder shots without it using as much of your energy. Number 2, you need to be explosive. So you need to be training plyometrics. You need to be improving your ability to output power and control the power output while you output it. The better your body can do that, again, the more efficient you are. The more efficient you are, the less energy you're using. The less energy you're using, the more energy you have in the later rounds of the fight. Finally, you need to be thinking about conditioning in terms of energy systems. We have 3 of those in the body. The aerobic system, which is your body's baseline of energy, your body's energy generator, as we like to call it. Basically, as you move, as you work, as you fight, the aerobic system's just in the background, regenerating energy as you use it. Number 2, we have the anaerobic lactic system, which is basically responsible for keeping your body from succumbing to muscle fatigue. So stopping the onset of muscle fatigue, keeping you able to go for longer without feeling that like heavy, slow feeling that starts to happen while you're fighting sometimes. Number 3, we have the anaerobic alactic system. And the anaerobic alactic system, basically call it your fight finisher system. This is your ability to hit 100% power efforts and recover from them quickly. If you want more info on all of those, just go to the Instagram account. We've got tons of videos on them, so I'm not going to break them all down on this podcast because that could take just so long. Anyway, so that's the base that you need. Now, if you want to do some of that while going for runs and things like that, that is completely fine. Like, running is not going to hurt you. It's not going to be a big problem for you, but it's just not the one and only best thing that you should do all the time. You need to structure it based off of the needs of the sport. And you can do that on an air bike. You can do that going for a run. You can do that with circuits. There's many, many, many different ways you can do it. Now, when I talk about this as well, I get a couple of complaints or a couple of, rebuttals or arguments that I always find kind of funny, but we're going to talk about today. The first one is what I titled this episode, which is, but everybody else is doing it. So, a lot of the time I'll have people, they come on, they hear me say, you shouldn't just go run every day for conditioning. And their response is, but all the top fighters in the world are doing it. So first of all, no, all the top fighters in the world are not just going for fucking runs every day. Second of all, even if they are going for some runs, something working for someone does not mean that that's the all-time perfect method that's going to work for everyone. You know what I'm saying? Like John Jones, I don't know if he still does, but used to do cocaine the week before all his fights. And he's easily one of the best fighters in the history of the world. So should everybody do cocaine a week before their fights? Fucking of course not. Right? But we take that same logic with something like, conditioning is the best way to condition for fights, because we don't think about what we're actually breaking down. You just look at it and you say, that guy's doing it and he's really good. So if I want to be really good, I have to do it too. But a lot of the time, there's a lot of other factors. First of all, they're probably not doing it every single day. Second of all, you don't know the distances that they are doing when they are doing it. Third of all, what else are they doing? What else are they doing within their week? Because if they're going, let's say they are going for runs every single day. I can see some comments coming in saying every fighter runs. Let's say they are going for runs every single day. What else are they doing in their week? Are they doing some, more energy system specific conditioning like I was just talking about? Are they doing some strength training? Are they doing some plyometrics? How does their nutrition look? How does their recovery look? What other things are they doing? Because what the mistake I see a lot of athletes make with this is they'll just say, well, the other people are doing it, so I have to do it, but then they're not taking into account all the other things that they have to be doing. So they're going for their runs, thinking going for all my runs is going to give me the best cardio ever. But then they're missing out on the strength training. They're missing out on the plyometric work. They're missing out on the energy system specific conditioning. And as a result, they're not getting the results in their gas tank, and they're spending hours upon hours upon hours getting minimal result back for the time that they're putting in. And that's the problem. It's not that running is this terrible thing that's going to kill everyone. It's that you can get a better result faster. And if you're a young athlete listening to this, that should always be your goal. Your goal should always be, how can I get the result I'm looking for while putting the least amount of effort into it? And the reason for that is because you're always trying to get a better and better result. Again, I said it already, but I'm going to say it again. This isn't saying that you shouldn't work hard. This is saying that you need to be efficient about the work you're doing. And the way you become more efficient about the work you're doing is you think about, how can I get a better result faster? Not just how can I run more miles? Because I'm going to say this is always one of the ways that I try to explain it that hopefully sticks for somebody if they're listening to this. Let's say you're fighting 3 3-minute rounds right now. That's 9 minutes. And within those 9 minutes, you have to be explosive. You have to be fast. You have to throw a hard combo and then kind of just move around a bit. So it's very up and down, right? You got to be explosive. You got to relax. You got to be explosive. You got to relax. You got to be explosive. You got to relax. Now, how is going for a 30, 40, 50 hour-long run at one steady pace, just trying to beat a certain time, how is that applicable to making you explosive and fast? It's just not. So again, can you never do it? Of course not. But it is not the thing that's going to magically give you this great gas tank that you think it's going to. So what have we covered? We've covered the reasoning being, all the best fighters do it, so I have to do it too. Guys, the best fighters are the best fighters because they're good at fighting, not because they go for fucking runs. Like, it's just, they're the best fighters because they put the most time in in the ring or on the mats or doing, their specific sport. They're not the best fighters because they go for a fucking run. That has no correlation to your ability to fight. It just doesn't. And one of the other arguments that I'll always hear when I talk about the energy systems or anything like that is I'll always hear people come back and they say, well, just run and sprint. Don't overcomplicate it. And I got one of those comments today, and that one always makes me laugh because just run and sprint. Don't overcomplicate it. I'm not overcomplicating it. I'm telling you how the human body works. We have 3 energy systems. They all have different roles. If you're struggling in the area that one of these energy systems helps with, you need to work that energy system. And if you're just going for runs and then doing random sprints, you're not working anything. You're just working hard for the sake of working hard. Which is working hard bad? No. But if you just take that same amount of time that you're going to go for that run and structure it to actually focus it around building the energy systems that I talk about, you're going to put in the same, if not even a little bit less effort, and you're going to get a better result. Yet people think that that's overcomplicating it. It's just getting you a better result. I don't understand why people don't want that. So if you're thinking that, don't overcomplicate it. Just run and sprint and spar. You've got to understand that too. That yes, if you want to do all of these conditioning sessions that I talk about, all of the intervals, all the different energy system work and all that with runs, do your thing. But actually structure the runs. Don't just go for random distances and try to beat random times without any thought of what that's actually doing for you as a fighter. Because the goal is to match the energy demands of the sport. And if you're just doing random shit, it's not matching the energy demands of the sport. Is it going to help your cardio? Yeah, probably. But why would you not want to make your cardio even better in the same amount, if not less time? And then one of the final arguments that I always want to bring back, because this one honestly is the funniest one to me, is people will say basically something along the lines of, I could beat that guy up, so I don't need to listen to him. Which, like, guys, depending on who you are, you could probably beat up your MMA coach too. If you're, bigger and you've been training for a while, whatever, you could probably beat up your MMA coach too. You still listen to them, right? And again, I'm not sitting here trying to teach skills. That's not my lane. My lane is conditioning. But I want to really reinforce with you guys, if you look at someone giving advice, don't look and think, could I fight that guy? Look and think, does the advice make sense? Because if you've been doing something a certain way for a long time, I understand you might not love hearing, hey, this might not be the best way to do that, and you might actually want to switch it up. But if you're able to keep your mind open and just say, oh, maybe this actually makes sense. Maybe my conditioning work and my training outside of just the fight stuff should be focused around matching the energy demands of my sport, improving my ability to be explosive, to be fast, to repeat fast, explosive efforts for the duration that I'm actually going to be fighting. If you're able to think that way instead of just, I could beat that guy up, you're going to get so much more information, because who's giving the information and, whether or not you could fight them does not mean it's good or bad information. I used to be a power lifter, and for my size, I was pretty strong. I was doing well in the Canadian scene. But when it came to the big 3 lifts, the squat, bench, and deadlift that I was doing in competition, one of the people that I took the most advice from was someone who was lifting in the 56 kilo category, which is like 118 pounds or something like that. But this 118-pound man, although I lifted more weight than he did, he was strong as fuck. He understood powerlifting inside out and backwards. So when he gave advice, I knew it was good advice, because I would listen to the advice and I would say, that makes a lot of sense. I'm struggling in this area, and this advice seems like it would help me in this area. But if I had just looked and said, yeah, well, I deadlift 550 pounds and you only deadlift 345 pounds, then I would have missed out on so much good advice from being an egotistical, pig-headed dipshit. So stop looking at it that way. Stop looking and saying, could I beat that guy up? And start looking at it and saying, what is the advice that they're giving? And could that advice possibly help me? And then actually one last thing that I always want to bring up when I talk about this. So when I talk about running and I talk about how it's not the best conditioning for combat sports, one of the things that I always have people say as well, and it just came back to me, and I didn't write out any notes for this one. I wanted to just talk. And it just came back to me, is people always come back with like, yeah, but running makes you mentally tough. Or the other one is, yeah, but running conditions your shins. I'm like, dude, I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm never saying that running is not not going to help your mental toughness or it's not going to condition your shins. But again, you know what else helps your mental toughness? Sparring with trained killers multiple times a week that you're probably doing if you're listening to this podcast. Training, doing other conditioning sessions, air bike sessions are still going to work that mental toughness, your ability to continue to push yourself hard. It doesn't have to be a run to work your mental toughness. The same thing as conditioning your shins. Is running a good way to do it? Yeah, possibly. I don't know the science behind that or anything like that, if I'm honest. But there's also a number of other good ways to do it. So when I talk about running, I'm not telling you that it doesn't condition your shins. I'm not telling you that it doesn't help make you mentally tough. What I'm telling you is that there are better, more efficient ways to build up your conditioning than just pounding the fucking pavement. That is it. If you want to go pound the fucking pavement and you don't want to listen to the stuff that I'm giving you, that's fine. But if you want more efficient results with your conditioning, if you want to get a better gas tank specific for your sport in less time, feeling better and feeling better recovered, not putting your body through as much impact, listen up. If you want to just keep running all the time, do your fucking thing. But that is the message. The message is that there is more efficient ways to do it. You can do it in less time. You can do it and get better results. And if that's what you want, make sure that you keep your mind open. If that's not what you want, I don't know why you're still here. But anyways, guys, that is it. That is all. I appreciate you guys listening to this. I know it was a little bit of a long one. And we talked about a couple of different things, but I hope you learned something. I hope you got something good out of that. If you did, I would love to know what it was. Make sure to shoot me a message across any of my social media platforms to let me know. The links on how to do that will all be in the show notes below. And as always, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will catch you on the next episode. Guys, I'm going to stick around here for a minute on the Instagram account and do a little bit of Q&A. So if you got questions, drop them in.